Thanks everyone for being on today. Really appreciate you taking the time to come join us for our code collaborative call. Um, Hopefully everyone can hear me okay. We'll do introductions here in just a second, but we have a lot of ground that we're going to try to cover. It shouldn't be a long meeting, but there are some high level notes that we need to talk about to just get in front of everyone's radar. But we'll start with introductions. Start with myself. I'm Lance from the Association of Idaho Cities. I'm their policy analyst.
I'm Daniel from AIC as well. I'm the member services and grant specialist.
David, you're the first on our list. So you want to go next?
Yeah, David Freelove, Idaho Energy Code Circuit Rider.
Thanks for being on, David. Jerry, I think your iPhone, so you're next.
Jerry Peterson with Home Energy Services.
Okay. Thanks for being on, Jerry. I know you're not feeling the best today, but really do appreciate you joining us remotely for our chat. Let's see here. Campbell, is that Brian? I don't know first name there.
No, Brendan Campbell with the City of Seminole, just tuning in for some code updates.
Hey, Brandon, thanks for joining us today. We really appreciate it. Did you catch that?
Thank you.
Blake?
Hey everyone, Blake Ringeisen from the Northwest Energy Efficiency Alliance. Happy to be here.
Good to have you on, Blake. Hey, how's your kid doing?
Doing good, yeah, getting pretty massive. 16 months now.
16 months. Holy cow.
Yep.
That's awesome. My daughter just recently celebrated her year, so it's crazy how fast the time goes by. But congrats, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, likewise.
Bobby?
Bobby Kaufman, Clearwater County, Idaho. I missed what I was supposed to say. Sorry. I'm going on the office today.
Hey, thanks for being on. We appreciate it.
You're welcome. I'm glad to be part of it and remember and put it in my calendar.
All good. I mean, everyone's busy. There's a lot to cover, so no problem. Just glad to have you.
Awesome.
Chad?
Thanks.
Chad Blanco, AIA Idaho. I'm the co-chair of the advocacy committee.
Hey, thanks for being on, Chad. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, guys.
Damon.
Damon Woods, University of Idaho, Integrated Design Lab.
Thanks for being on, Damon. Hey, while we're doing introductions, any news on the baby front?
All is looking good. We're looking forward to mid-July to meet hopefully a little girl.
That's fantastic. We will get past the baby part of news. I have to ask that question because I don't get to see Damon very often. But
Damon, I didn't know that. Congratulations.
Thanks. Yeah, we're thrilled. Yeah.
Yeah. Dylan.
Agnes, Integrated Design Lab.
Thanks for being on, Dylan. Jeff Wardle.
Jeff Wardle. I'm an attorney at Clark Wardle here in Boise and have also on BOMA International's code committee.
Thanks for being on, Jeff. Appreciate your time. Jason.
Hello, Jason Blaze, City of Boise, building official.
Good to have you on, Jason. Jerica.
Hey, good afternoon. Jerica Stacy, International Code Counsel. I live in Ammon, Idaho. My baby just turned 9, and I think I met most of you when I was pregnant with my middle child who is about to turn 12. So good to be here.
That's awesome. Thanks for being on, Jerica. Really.
I actually met you before you had your first one.
Yes, I have known Dave for probably 15, 16 years.
Yeah.
It's not a competition, David.
Oh no. Yeah, I'm old. It's not being a competition, be old.
Jordan.
Hey everyone, I'm Jordan Pratt with Energy 350.
Hey, thanks for being on, Jordan. We appreciate it. Leah.
Hi, Leah McMillan. I'm an architect in Boise. I sit on some of the same committees as Chad, so just want to be an advocate, so I'm here to pay attention. Thank you.
Hey, we appreciate it. Thanks for being on, Leah. We really have appreciated AIA's participation in our meetings and sending in the supportive letter during the session for the building code rules. So we appreciate your involvement. Cherie?
Bree Wilhite, Idaho Power, and I manage some of our energy efficiency, commercial and industrial programs here at Idaho Power.
Thanks, Cherie. Suzanne?
Hi, I'm Suzanne Mayer with the National Fire Sprinkler Association, and thanks for the meeting invite.
Yeah, thanks for being on, Suzanne. Teresa?
Teresa Heitman, architects in Northern Idaho by Moscow, and glad to be part of the conversation and learn alongside all of you.
Thanks for being on. Tess, you're next.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Tess Studley. I work at Northwest Energy Efficiency Alliance. Thanks for joining today.
Thanks, Tess. Todd, you're next.
Afternoon, everybody. Todd Greenwell, Idaho Power. And Lance, yeah, you're right. Time is moving. It seems like last month when you had your child. I can't believe it's a year. That's mind-boggling.
It goes by so fast. It really is amazing. So, but yeah, it's good. It's been fun, and still waiting for the walking milestone. We'll get there. It's gonna come. I know it, and I'm gonna wish it didn't come. Wendy, you're our last person. You're our cleanup.
Wendy Cook, I'm the building official for Teton County.
Wendy, thanks for being on. Awesome turnout today. Really appreciate how many of you jumped on. I know your schedules are busy. I know that you have a lot of hats that you wear in your roles for your organizations or your cities or counties. So really appreciate you being here today. I sent out an agenda just kind of going over some of the high level notes that we're going to be looking at covering today. We already done introductions. Felt like that would be especially important given the fact that we do have new people on the call today. Before we move too far ahead, though, David, you kind of talked about it before we officially began the call, but are there any updates or anything training-wise that you wanted to share with everyone as far as what you've been doing, what you plan to be doing over the next few months?
Yeah. So got a lot of fillers out to people to get training scheduled. I've got commitments. I just don't have hard dates set yet. Waiting on them to commit to a date, getting facilities, but I sent out or gonna send out another email this morning or this afternoon, I guess it is now, and see if I can get them to commit and nudge them a little, I guess you would say. Other things we're doing. So Jerry and I had a meeting here a few weeks ago. What we've got in the works is we decided we would like to freshen up our trainings, get get some different titles. We've been, kind of moving around with the same trainings over the last year. So during our discussion, we decided, in light of how the legislation went this year, is we're going to basically title our trainings as the 2026 energy stuff. So we'll have the 2026 Idaho Residential Energy Code, Commercial Code. We're going to update a lot of our training, get a new look to it. It might be very, very similar, but at least get it updated. We've got some new ones that we would like to get out there, specifically heat pumps. I want to get a 1 hour training together on heat pumps, specifically talking about lockouts, balance points, that type of stuff, the things we see in the industry with poor installation. What are the important things to look at and how to overcome those. And then, as well as some of the newer technology that we have with those heat pumps right now that we're seeing in residential. Looking at doing some specific to mini splits. I get a lot of questions on mini splits as far as how to do calculations, auxiliary heats, if it's needed or not. And then I'm finding there's not a huge understanding of the different types of mini splits that are out there and the range of temperatures that they can operate under. So get that kind of stuff out there, as well as discuss, some installation errors and things that we see out there. So some low hanging fruit, at least that I feel I'm seeing in the field. And as well, Todd, I know Todd, he's a big time expert on heat pumps. So I'll be having some discussion with you, Todd, as I'm putting these together, to make sure that we're getting a good consistent message out there, and we're capturing all of the concerns that are you're seeing, I'm seeing out there in the field. So a lot of this is going to be divided up between Jerry and I. Trying to look over if I'm missing anything here. But what we're going to typically see is just, updating the titles. I believe Jerry has already started submitting to ICC to get those approvals and our approval numbers for it to be accredited to issue the CEUs on. Jerry is going to specifically update the indoor air quality module that we have. We'll be doing a new one on the 2026 air seal checklist, which was, submitted and basically was part of that package that went to the legislature this year. So it's really in a hopes to kind of preempt for next year. Hopefully we can get some more traction on it and move forward and kind of spread the word. Other things, so I told you as far as the air balance, I would go ahead and pick a date on that. So I'll schedule that for May 27th. If you guys could get that on the website for me and get it towards opener registration. I've already sent out text messages to both of the one I talked to a bit ago, as well as the guy from Icon that you and I spoke about earlier there, Lance. And then lastly, Monday, I'll be doing an interview with the Energy Exchange, and that's going to be, I'll be down at the Grove there in Boise. I'll meet with them. I guess it's going to be a video or a recorded type interview and I may have Tess explain it a little further, but it's going to be for some marketing stuff that they're going to be doing here in Idaho. So anyway, that'll be happening on Monday. But I could let Tess kind of give you a better overview on exactly what that is.
Sure. Thanks, Dave. And yeah, we appreciate you participating in that. So next week, NIA is holding our Efficiency Exchange Conference. This year it's in Boise. So I think it's Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, or Tuesday and Thursday. I won't be there this year, but there'll be folks from NIA and utilities around the region, implementers and educators. There's days full of sessions, and that's down at the Grove. As part of that, like Dave mentioned, they'll be putting together kind of a promotion video, and we're interested in understanding more about the types of trainings we're providing on energy code and energy efficiency in the state. So Dave's been willingly accepted and will participate in that video. So you'll be our shining star in that video, Dave. We look forward to it.
Well, then you're very welcome. I'll make sure that I clean up really good since it's
Yeah. Yeah, it's gonna be video. Yeah, exactly.
I probably won't even wear a hat, which that's rare for me.
Well, that I don't know if I've ever seen you not wear a
You
hat.
probably haven't. Yeah, you probably never
I
have
think you
seen me.
take off the hat, but like to go to a meeting without a hat, I mean, that would be a pretty substantial adjustment.
Yes, it will be.
Well, I mean, that all sounds great. I've got noted here, David, like you said, May 27th is your upcoming air balance class. So we can get that emailed out to everyone to let them know that you're planning on it. I'm assuming that's the same time, right? The same time frame?
Yeah, we'll do 8 to noon. I'll schedule the Zoom meeting from 7 to 1, but I'll go ahead and I'll get that link put together and sent out. Well, I'll send it over to Lori so she can get it sent out to people before the actual class. She usually send it out about 24 to 48 hours before the class. She'll send that link out. So
Hey,
Fantastic.
David, this is Todd.
Yes, sir.
On that heat pump material you're going to create for the training, I'm totally available to you on that. Sooner the better. I mean, I'm immersed in all the regional research going on, what's happened with heat pumps and where it's headed. So whatever you need, I'm glad to provide that. And um, I'm also on that NIA video thing you were talking about. They
Oh,
gave me,
great.
yeah, I got 13 questions to answer in something called a short video. It's all centered around energy efficiency and the strategies and advanced heat pumps, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it sounds like an amazing video they're trying to put together.
What time are you down there on Monday, Todd?
Monday through Wednesday, I'm in a couple presentations I got to do and meetings and this video now. So I basically have the let's see.
Well, what I was thinking, I think I am 11 in the morning that I will meet with them and do that interview. I was just thinking it might be a good opportunity for both the same location. We could just sit down for an hour or so and go over the heat pump stuff if it works for you, or I can set something up with you at a later date and I can just meet you up at your office.
Yeah, let's do heat pumps separately and secure maybe 3 hours instead of one. Yeah, there's a lot to talk about, but I'm in slot 1, 2, 3, or 4 on Tuesday for that video. I'm not sure yet. I got to pull a leader into the video, hopefully, because there's a lot of high level questions that they shot me.
Sure. Yeah, I think I got 8 questions, so I lucked out.
Well, I'm sure you'll do great, David, and same for you, Todd. Appreciate you guys being willing to do that and to cover that material. Any other questions from anyone regarding upcoming events or regarding trainings that we wanted to bring up before shifting gears? I'll take that silence as we're ready to move forward. So appreciate that conversation. David, thank you for providing that update for us and really do appreciate the work you're doing and trying to go out and meet with people in person to provide the trainings to several businesses, to several counties and cities. One thing I did forget is I skipped over the building code board, but the next meeting that I have on their calendar and what I've last heard, and please correct me if anyone else has heard anything different, but June 9th at 9:30 a.m. That's when the next building code board meeting will be, and that is held remotely and in person. You could go to Doppel's campus, or eventually they'll get I think that's WebEx, right? Is what they use for their remote services. So look out for that in the next month or so. So we'll see what that will bring.
Just confirm that was June 9th at 9 a.m., Lance?
I have it June 9th at 9:30 a.m.
9:30. Okay.
They do adjust the meetings by a little bit, but that's what I have right now is June 9th at 9:30.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, and they have one scheduled for August, but I figured let's wait and see how that first one goes and then go from there to see how that second one ends up going. So I think that's it. Oh, well, actually, Jerica, Brian, I know you're both on the call. Just wanted to make sure, is there anything from a national perspective with IACC that you wanted to bring up while we're on our call today?
Hey, thanks, Lance. No, I don't think so. I think we're seeing a general trend towards adoption of the 2024 and, of course, the need for education associated with that. So we're cranking out what we can here at the International Code Council and serving those communities that need it. And we're really grateful to have folks like Dave and Jerry in the States providing education as well. But I don't think that, of course, we have the 2027 that's wrapping up. We have some new interesting things going on with 2030, the IECC and the IECCX, but all of that is kind of over and above what we need to talk about today. But cool things happening in the energy space, of course.
Yeah, I mean, thanks for that update. We really do appreciate you just continuing to be our connection to what's happening nationally. So yeah, as always, we appreciate having you on the call and any perspective that you can provide or things for us to keep an eye out on. So that is all good to hear. So now that we've covered those things, I'm sure that most of you are on for the next portion of what we'll cover, which is kind of recapping the 2026 legislative session. Jerry, I wasn't sure if you wanted to start first or if I should go first.
I think I'm gonna let you take the lead on that, if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd be happy to. So, I know some of you have asked about a draft that's been going around that Ken Burgess has been working on. Um, I have been wanting to share that with you guys much sooner. I just received permission today that I can share that. So I will go ahead and put that in the chat. By the way, Greg, good to have you on. Thanks for being here. No worries about joining us late. It happens. You know, you got to jump between meetings. Just really appreciate your willingness to jump in and to follow along. Um, Here's that draft, though. I just put it in the comments for everyone to be able to see. I'm also going to open it up on my computer for us to be able to look at together. Um, I figure this is probably the best place for us to start, and then we can kind of work our way from there. Let me see. Oh, that's not what I wanted to share. One sec. Okay. Can everyone see that?
Yes.
Let me
Yeah, I
make
got
it
it. Yes.
bigger. So this is the draft in its current form. This draft was sent to me in March. And to give a really quick recap before we dig into the bulk of this draft. During the legislative session, many of us worked really hard to get the building code rules across the finish line. We got a hearing in the Senate. It was approved unanimously. Went to the Senate floor, same thing. Gets sent over to the House Business Committee and gets stonewalled pretty quick. It pretty much didn't have a chance. We had a couple of representatives that tried their best to get this passed, or at least the 2026, or excuse me, to get the Idaho Building Code rules passed during the session with amendments because there were some concerns brought up. That was pretty much shot down from the beginning. So Ken has been working, trying to see if there's a way we can get these rules approved. I just want to read exactly what he said to me so that way, he just said, welcome to share this. This version is not the end product, but conceptually the key is we are going to have to put the building code rules in statute in order to get anything updated from where we are currently at. I need all stakeholder groups to understand this realization. So that's what he sent me today and asked for me to share with each of you. So that is pretty much where we're at. If this is going to go through, if it's something we want to do, it's going to have to go into this Idaho statute. So, but that's just basically saying in the first part that the 2024 International Building Code rules shall be put into effect, and then account for the exceptions and adjustments that were brought forward by Jerry and Damon, and several others, including those from Doppel. So, and then just changing it to the 2024 version. And then this is just emphasizing the fact that we're going to have to go through the legislature for any future changes. So the building code rules process would be altered, but we want to go through the same rulemaking negotiations that we have previously. So that's definitely something we'd want to keep in mind. There's some good and there's some bad to that. There's a lot of effort that was put this last year, especially by Doppel, especially by Jerry, and especially by IDL and talking and working with people and getting to understand the process. That would look very different if this were to go through. And then this would be adding in. So, and again, this draft was built with the idea of trying to get it through in the 2026 session. So Ken Burgess had worked with several others to add in some more immediate actions, the heat detector in garages, the visual inspections portions. He also said there might be some willingness to add in some other immediate things. He doesn't know if it would go into statute right away, or if the mandate would come through the bill that needs to go into statute when it comes through. So that's still all up in the air. But basically, at the end of the day, whatever changes come through with the building code rules will have to inevitably go into statute, given the makeup of the legislature right now. Now, the caveat I will say, does this mean that this will be the case depending on how legislative elections go in May? I don't know. I think that is something worth revisiting at another point once we know what the election results are, and we can kind of see who is going to end up in the legislature. But that's kind of to remain to be determined. So we'll see where we go on that one. But the major message I just wanted to make sure to share with each of you is that Ken is working with the home builders from his side. They want to see these rules go through. They have been told by several legislators that as of right now, with the makeup of the current legislative body, that if these rules are going to go through, it's got to go through statute. Brett, I see you're on the phone call. I don't know if there's anything you wanted to add from the Idaho perspective. Jason, same for you, or if there's anyone from the Idaho side that's hearing anything different on these rules. But that's what I've heard, that's what I've been told, and that's what we're most likely working towards with the 2027 legislative session.
No, I think you pretty well hit it all. I will say that it is an interesting place down there at the legislature right now. A little different climate than most. Like the IRC, and I apologize, I jumped on the call late, so I hopefully I'm not saying things twice, but I know that at one point we thought there may be some path forward with the IRC, and that was obviously with help of Ken Burgess and some others, and we thought there was a path forward on that, but that obviously didn't come to shape there. So I don't know where this is going to go going forward. I think it's going to be pretty challenging. I know there are a couple of legislators that are pretty adamant that it does go into statute, which is obviously our hesitation, but that may be something we just have to do. So I don't know where it's going to go, though. It's hard to say. Like you said, never know who's going to be elected or reelected, or if there's any moving parts there. That's kind of where we're at.
Yeah, I appreciate you offering that perspective, Brett. Elizabeth, I see you have your hand raised. If you want to go ahead and share what you were going to say.
Yeah, my name is Elizabeth Torsky. I'm with Cascade Natural Gas. I think I've met some on this group, and others this might be new to you. Our sister company is Intermountain Gas, and I'm their building code specialist. And I've talked with my leadership. I was surprised, like probably many in this group was, at the results of the legislative sessions in Idaho with regards to the code adoption. And if there's anything we can do or our lobbyists can do to help support this in a future session, we would like to offer that assistance if that's useful.
Elizabeth, thanks for your comments. I can kind of speak to a little bit to that first, and then if anyone else wants to correct me or add thoughts to it. One of the things I would say is, depending on the willingness of all groups, if we have strong reservations about putting this into statute and we can provide data. I know Tess had talked about maybe working with Kevin from the NIA side to get data of what codification has looked like in other states and present that as a unified group to the legislature, then I think we stand a chance to be able to get revisions made, or maybe in the end it still gets into statute, but we get additional inclusions in the way it's written that make it more palatable. That would certainly stand a better chance the more groups that we get to participate, ask for the assistance of their lobbyists, and making sure to make clear to the legislature that, hey, we feel like these are really problematic and this could be a problem for long-term planning in the state of Idaho. So I guess all that to say, that would be great. We would definitely welcome and appreciate any assistance that you and your organization can give.
Hey, Lance, this is Todd. I don't have a hand raising icon, so I'm just going to jump in. But I want to make sure I understand that this document here, that's the same House Bill 914 that, no, it isn't. This isn't House Bill 914 that was presented.
No, I shared in House, and I apologize for the confusion on that for those that saw my email. The reason I shared that, Todd, was because the fact that was a bill introduced in the House Business Committee. And I was introducing that because they basically wanted to put a moratorium on rules and say for the next 5 years that absolutely no rules from Doppel. You're going to just go on ice, won't be able to do anything. And so that's just kind of like the opposite effect, right? You know, we had a unanimous support in the Senate for getting these rules through, whereas we just had a bill introduced by the chair of the House Business Committee saying, hey, you're going to put all rules on ice for 5 years. At Doppel. So that's why I shared that call out.
Okay, yeah, thanks for that clarification. And I'm not an expert on this statute thing, but basically, what does that change in the functionality of the Idaho Building Code Board? I mean, and us, just in a big picture. I'm just not a politician, so some of this I hear a lot of sensing, some fear of doing that. Is it because we lose control of introducing a significant voice if we want new codes down the road 10 years from now, or what's it mean?
Brett and Jason, I don't know if there's anything you guys would offer on that, or if there's anyone else that offers their perspective. I'd like to hear what everyone else would have to say on that note too.
Can I weigh in?
Yeah, Jeff, please.
The frustrating thing here, and this now makes me feel really, really old because, you know, I was there when the international codes were first adopted in Idaho. And the problem here is, you know, the legislature got tired of us coming back, you know, since the ICC cycles are 3 years coming back. And what we found was, you know, they were the ones who said, oh, let's just adopt the codes and not make it statutory and delegate that authority. And that's where we find ourselves. That it was largely the direction of the legislature to get back, you know, so that they didn't have to have it on their agenda. And it is difficult and frustrating because we've seen over, you know, the past 5 years that in particular that, you know, efforts that this group has made as well as others in the industry have made as we deal with updated items, you know, get disregarded. And we do have a new group of legislators that want to take it on, you know, and want it back in code, but they don't seem to appreciate the fact, and especially, you know, the comments that were made in the House committee meeting this last time, there is a complete lack of understanding and appreciation by many in the House in particular of what code cycles are, how codes are developed, and why they are. So essentially, you know, we're returning back to kind of a pre 2005, you know, way that they did it. And the fundamental problem with that just was that they didn't like us having to come back with these massive massive new adoptions because they just would adopt, the code based upon the date and let it go. So I, they all want to be regulated less, and that's fine and good, but it's just irrelevant and they don't appreciate that. It's irrelevant what they think and what political grandstanding comes from this because, this is what we saw several years ago as, former Representative Sage Dixon tried to do some things that just kind of unwound industry level work. And, you can oppose regulation all you want, but your your insurers and your manufacturers, those those trains continue to move. So it's not the end of the world. It was what we were in 20 years ago. It just, they won't like where this gets to.
So this, Todd, just to elaborate on my question, I appreciate that. That helps. So, for example, in 2027, would there not be an Idaho Building Code Collaborative? This group, the chance to vet the 2027 suite of codes. I mean, is it basically that the government decides if they feel like adopt new codes, 10 years down the road, and do they reach out for technical expertise like this group provides, or they just sign on the dotted line and let it rip? I still am not sure I'm grasping what we're losing in the evaluation of a future suite of codes, the IEC suite.
Well, when we going back in time, you adopted the code, they specified what the code was, and they had greater leniency to, local jurisdictions in implementing their modifications. And, where we are today is in large part because they didn't like local implementation. And what I'd really hate to see in the future is kind of the degree that we've seen over the last, 4 or 5 years. I would really hate to see having to bring through, Idaho changes to the various codes and dealing with those as an omnibus bill. I mean, it's just going to be messy and complicated, but I don't know. I don't know how you get. I don't know how we help them understand the hell that they're bargaining for.
Thank you. I appreciate that. That helps.
Yeah, and I think to go along with some of that, I really what's happening is the legislature as a whole, mainly the House, but the whole is basically they're stepping away from the idea that Doppel can make some of these things happen, or the Building Code Board in this instance specifically. I mentioned Doppel just because you mentioned all of the suite of codes. So they're wanting to, for whatever reason, step away from that. And I've always tried to do what I can to help make these boards a little bit more relevant, because we're losing relevancy at the board level on everything. That's not just building, that's electrical, that's plumbing, it's HVAC, everything. And so that's where this is heading. And if you saw what happened in this last legislative session, all of the work that was done, and I feel like, to be completely transparent and honest, Doppel did a very good job going around the state and getting all of the input from all of the negotiated rulemaking bodies, people, entities, whatever that is. And at the end of the day, the legislature basically, I don't even know if they even entertained, really, quite frankly, any of it. And so it's kind of heading down that path. Now, I'm not saying I agree with any of this. I'm just trying to tell you kind of how it's happened so far. And there was the push, to the point made a minute ago. There was a push years ago that they wanted to take it and make the boards, obviously appointed by the governor. They wanted to make them a little bit easier to make decisions, get collaborative input from all of the entities in the state. And that was a push years and years ago. They've since they're stepping away from that since then. So that's really kind of how it's happening with everything. So I don't want to repeat what's already been said, but that's really where it's heading. We don't want it to go into statute for the simple fact that if it goes into statute, it's harder to make rule changes, any kind of rule, statute, anything. And at the end of the day, if I can kind of address the elephant in the room, that is basically that the legislature, I guess, as a whole, because I have to say that that's what's happening right now, if we put it in statute, the idea is it will be harder to change. We won't go with any changes in the future, like every 3 years or every 6 years or even more. That's the idea. The hope is if we put it in statute, this is coming from the legislature, and I'm not putting words in their mouth. I'm putting words in their actions, right? Their actions are, we do not want to have anything new in the next 3 years, let alone 6 years or 8 years, 9 years, whatever it is. They don't want any of that. So if we put it in statute, it anchors it more solid and solidifies it more that way.
So is the Idaho Building Code Collaborative, this group, seen as an ally or an impetus for Mr. Burgess to push for that, or is he pushing for statute for the sake of getting the 2024 codes through? I mean, it seems like it would be not the thing to do, but where's the impetus for this to go to statute, that the core of it then at the moment? I mean, it's not something, it sounds like we're
It's coming from
pushing.
legislators, a handful of them. It's
Yeah.
not,
Thank you.
it's not
Okay.
coming from the home builders, but the
No.
home builders want the updated codes.
Yeah, the home builders pushed it at the very end, tried to get it across the finish line for the IRC. And when they did that, we thought maybe there was a path. Obviously, that took a turn at the end. So it wasn't to Jason's point, it was not the Building Contractors Association, Ken Burgess. It was not him pushing it into statute necessarily. He actually was pushing one item, which was the heat detectors in the garage. But other than that, he was basically just saying, we want the new IRC. There is a handful of legislators that are not in favor of any new codes, period. And that doesn't just mean the 23, it doesn't mean the 24, it doesn't mean whatever code you're talking about. It's across the board. They want to put it in statute so it doesn't change in the future.
Yeah, I had one legislator tell me he would prefer to keep the 2018 and then you guys just make amendments along the way and we'll just keep it that way.
Oh, Greg, please.
Yeah,
go
I
ahead.
was just gonna ask maybe a suggestion. Would it be worth entertaining suggesting that instead of putting codes in statute, if they changed the makeup of the board to include a few additional seats, basically 2 seats for each party? So, and by having, if they were able to change Doppel's building code board to include, would that create buy-in? Because you'd have legislators who are involved in the process, and then would that gain support? Is that worth suggesting?
So the board members currently, all of them are approved by the governor, so they're indirectly appointed. The building code board is one of the largest boards we already have, and so I'm not too optimistic on expanding that or what those additional seats would do. Also, they were kind of warned by the governor's office to be careful on their advocacy, and so they were pretty much told not to testify at any of the hearings and stuff. And so they're whatever actions they're going to take, whatever we're going to get from them, kind of has to surface and be known prior to it going before the legislature. This is Jerry.
Yeah, and what I was suggesting, just to clarify, was if they're going to change the statutes, change the statutes so that way those 4 legislators were not appointed by the governor, but they were rather appointed by the majority and minority leaders. And some other states do that. So I'm just suggesting something that other states have done is they have legislative representatives.
I I think the problem with that,
the ones that we're discussing, you know, are pretty much adamant. I don't, you know, I think it would actually make it worse. That's just my own opinion, you know.
I would agree. This is Brett. I would agree, and I guess to your question, I don't think it's a bad idea. I'm not saying it because of this, but I'm going to be completely honest. When Jason says there's a handful of legislators, you're probably talking about 4 or 5, and that influences the entire legislature on both really the House and Senate.
Yes.
This isn't even one or the other. This is both. And you have one main powerhouse, we'll call it, individual that is really dragging it in one direction and pretty much gets whatever they want. I won't even specifically say anybody, but I'm just going to tell you that that's kind of where it is right now. And unfortunately, that group of people will make the decisions regardless of the building code board, regardless of industry input. And to be completely honest, I want to be blunt. It really doesn't matter of anybody. And we would be, as this board, as this collaborative committee or this committee we're on right now, it wouldn't matter with us either, unfortunately. I don't want to burst anybody's bubble, but
And
it's kind of the way it is.
one thing you have to remember, several years ago for rules, you used to only had to get it through one side. And so there was often where the House wouldn't vote for it, but we would get it through the Senate and then the rules went through. It's just not that way anymore. You got to have both. So it's much harder. But in the past, where everybody has had their hands stacked, everybody's supporting it, it has gone through. This is the first time I've seen it where it's just been, nope, not doing it.
That's right. Yeah, that's correct, Jason. This is Brett. I agree with that wholeheartedly because it's really kind of a tough thing right now. And I've even thought of ideas of why don't we just send it to the Senate, see if it gets anywhere there. The problem is you've got I don't know if it's negotiated deals or some sort of if you pass mine, I'll pass yours. I don't know exactly, but it is definitely 4 or 5 individuals for the entire Senate and House.
Brian, go ahead.
And I'm not advocating for any position here, and this might be a question for Jason and Brett, but as I'm reading through, I think Burgess's draft, the intent of the draft seems to be to pull forward to the 24s, but pulling forward any amendments to the 2018s. And then I'm not sure, would the building code council's rule change after that, or could they continue to make recommendations and basically go through the same process?
I think they could potentially make amendments, but they couldn't make proposals for new code cycles. This is the way I understood it. I'd have to get that clarified.
So they could adopt amendments from new cycles, but just not call it the new cycle?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
That's correct. And I think to kind of solidify that as well, Jason, you're exactly right. This is Brett. The other thing is there's been this major push in all of the industries. This is plumbing, electrical, HVAC, and building, where we call it the Idaho Code. So Idaho Building Code, Idaho Plumbing Code, and so on and so forth. So I think that's another part of that they want to have an Idaho Building Code instead of the International Building Code or International Residential Code. They would just call it the Idaho Building Code for residential or the Idaho Building Code for commercial or however they want to do that. They want to step away from that, but I think that still goes down the same path of not wanting to do any new codes. And so I think those are all kind of one and the same, but they would just take the 18 as the basis or foundation, call it, and then they would build on it as it goes forward if it makes it into statute that way.
That's the one thing on doing that though is we would lose the ability to pass emergency rules unless they address that in the statute. And we've had, I mean, all of you guys probably have had times when we have had to pass emergency rules to get through various portions of it. I think the most recent one had to do with the HVAC ducting.
Yeah.
And those are decisions that have to be made now. You know, we
I
don't have
did.
time to wait. And if it was in statute, I don't know that we have an avenue for doing that.
Yeah, and I did see a separate bill trying to limit what you could do for emergency rules. I didn't follow up and see if that passed or not, but they were trying to limit that a little bit this session. I saw in a proposal.
So I'll be brief, but kind of my overview on this is the primary opponent on the House side, his main argument that he was using in the committee was that he wasn't involved in, he wasn't being notified or he wasn't involved. This is a person that's been directly involved in this for, over a decade. He knows exactly what's going on. He knows who the players are. He knows what the collaborative is, and he willfully, refrained from being part of that. And yet his kind of condemning comment was that, he couldn't support something that he wasn't a part of. And if you look at the flip side of that, it's like, okay, we have one person here that feels like he wasn't engaged versus an entire industry that's been engaged for 2 years. And by doing this in statute, you're now reversing that, and you're saying, we're going to take away the entire process. We're going to take away the public hearings. We're going to take away, the mandatory meeting dates. All of that will be gone, and it'll just be up to whoever can sponsor a bill and carry it through there, with no obligation to, you know, consider any industry expertise or, and so, you know, if they are serious, if there is a distinct definable problem there, maybe it's code cycles or something. Let's break out those distinctions. Let's see what those individual items are and do that. Make those changes if need be. But to me, and I've been doing this a long time, it's just oversimplification. It's just that we don't know what we're doing, including the board and all the advocacy, and that a few elected officials that don't do this day in and day out or have businesses that are kind of somewhat engaged are now entitled to make all of the decisions. And there's no good way forward, where makes it's not going to work out for the benefit of the citizens of the state. And I'll just kind of leave it at that.
Yeah, and to that point, if I could, this is Brett again. So you're exactly right. But interestingly enough, the argument that was placed on behalf of that specific individual was something that actually didn't even apply to the circumstance that was presented. So for example, it was a heat detector, and then there was some fire things, and those fire things actually had no bearing on the decision that was being made. It was basically it was a way out to say I wasn't involved, even though if he would have been involved, it would not have made any difference because what he was arguing had no bearing on adopting the new code. So it was actually it was kind of one of those things that it was like, yeah, well, I wasn't involved. And oh, by the way, I'm in that industry, so I should have been involved, when in fact, you're exactly right. That individual's been involved with this very heavily over the years. And the argument really it was irrelevant because it didn't even touch on the thing that we were trying to pass with the new code. So yeah,
Right. But had he brought it up at a public hearing, that would have got addressed, right?
Right. That's
Maybe
correct.
repeatedly. And that's the disadvantage of not having the process that we have, is we would not have time to respond to things like that.
That's correct. And then also, this is Brett again. Sorry, I don't want to. I'll end on this. I'm trying not to talk a lot, but The other thing is I've often wondered, where do we go from here? What can happen? I've thought of the idea and have thrown it out to some that are a lot smarter than me, and I've asked the question, how do we make the building code board more relevant? And my thought is, you have the governor that is appointing these individuals on these boards. Could we go to the governor and get any help? And I've had responses from the industry that's actually those group of people that are 4 or 5 individuals that are against a new building code or a new code of any kind. Those individuals and the governor don't typically see eye to eye. And so if we were to put any emphasis on the governor's side, it may make it more inclined to actually go the other way, that rather than the path forward we would like to see. Just as an FYI.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I've been told by some of these legislators that in their eyes, the board is, yeah, appointed by the governor, but they're not elected like we are. And so we should be making a decision because we're elected. It's kind of been communicated that way.
Very true. Very true.
Real quick, guys. Jason, I did look up the bill. I believe it's House Bill 539. I put it in the chat for everyone. There's still emergency rulemaking authority there, but it is shifted. It is.
Yeah.
But it's still there. They can still do it, especially for the rules regarding health and safety. There's still the ability to be able to do it, but there is an adjustment regarding emergency rules. So that is something we would need to be mindful of. Greg, I didn't want to lose sight on your question because I feel like you didn't get too much of a straightforward answer. I'm not sure if you were on the call last year, but to me, it was a great illustration. The building code board had a discussion about this process, right? Trying to go through the legislature, how it works, why is it this way? And they had an argument with their attorney because basically the attorney was insinuating that the legislature just rubber stamps what the building code board does. And the building code board told their attorney, no, don't use that language ever. Please don't ever insinuate that they're just rubber stamping what we're doing. And they went down the rabbit hole explaining how it happened and why that matters and why to not say that. I share that because in my mind, from what I've heard from the legislature, their goal is to make sure that everyone knows that the building code board's here and the legislature is here. And so I don't think they want to do anything to make the building code board more important. And so I think that's just kind of a non-starter right there in that sense. Would it change if you put legislators on there? I don't know. It's hard to say. So, I mean, I do understand the feedback here, and I think that there's still plenty of time to figure out what direction we want to take. I think really, though, as a collaborative, it'd be nice to work together and to think about, well, what is it that we want, right? Are we just admitting the fact that this is going into statute and the focus should be on making sure that we have the language we want to be okay with it? Is it to fight the process of, you know what, we'd rather just see if we can fight off and not put this into statute so that way we can hold off until there's a better time to revisit this discussion? I think that that's really, from my standpoint, what I think we would need to figure out as a group as far as considering, as far as best ways to move forward and work with our points of contact members of the legislature in how to address this in the next legislative session.
That's the $1 million question, Lance. I guess I'm wondering if there's a way for us to try to connect with some folks either on the board or within DOPL to understand too maybe what they're thinking about. Or can we maybe be the folks that are in between to help try to make sure we have their input and their insights involved in this as well.
So when I talked to Doppel originally, they were saying that, the governor's office could have requested that they, reformat their rules proposal into the statutory language. and they did not take that process that what was submitted was done, outside of Doppel. And so, I don't think, um, I don't see them being directly involved in that. I think kind of looking forward, and this is just on a much grander scale, looking at a longer horizon. If the consensus is that all of this is going to end up in statute, um, we should be involved in that process as early as possible. Find out who actually wrote the bill, who's sponsoring it, and make sure that we have the language in there that needs to be in there, um, rather than just opposing it. At least try to be engaged in that process. Um, you know, and obviously allow for industry input in developing that. It's just a thought.
One thing I can say on this bill, I didn't mention it, but both the chairs of state affairs for the House and the Senate ended up being potential sponsors for this bill. I feel like that for the most part, I've been able to develop a pretty good working relationship with the Senate chair. So I think that from the Senate side, there's definitely some potential to work and to negotiate to get some changes through, that we would want to. So I think that'd be helpful from that standpoint, Jerry, of what you're talking about. I do think it's kind of hard though. The legislators right now, they're just all focused on May. They're focused on the elections. They're trying to get back into office. So that's where their focus is. I do think one other thing I'm thinking about too at the governor's office and why we might not be hearing much on this front is the governor doesn't have an opponent. And I'm trying to go about this in a careful manner, but he has races in the Senate and representatives, or in the representative side, that he's heavily invested in helping candidates to try to win. And I think he's trying to be mindful to make sure to not do anything to give ammo or reduce the chances of those that he would like to win these primary races. And so it might be something where we'd be able to get a little bit more information, a little more guidance, maybe in June, of what could actually happen and what we can hope for in the coming legislative session.
Yeah, if I could, this is Brett again. I think if I was going to personally, now this is just me speaking, if I was going to try to make some movement on any codes in building and code or energy codes or any of the above, I would definitely say our main focus needs to be that we educate, meaning not go out and do it in an unprofessional or other manner, but rather to go visit with our representatives that are in our areas. So if we have people that are within certain districts, or any districts, have them go out and talk to their representatives, talk to their senators, talk to the challenges that we have, and not really be so strong forward that it's like we have to have these and we have to. I think that we need to come out to these representatives and these senators and just say, here are the challenges. Look at the insurance companies, look at the ISO ratings, there's a whole gamut of things that you can look at that will affect all of the constituents in the state of Idaho. And that would apply to every single district in Idaho and every single constituent a part of any legislator. I think the thing is I don't think we talk to them much at our local level. And so when it comes before them, they're not educated in it. I think that's the biggest thing that we could do to help anything move forward with any of the codes. And I think it would help tremendously.
I agree, Brett. I think that's really great advice. Brett, this is one thing I talked about with Tess, but maybe we should talk offline about, if I can find a time to come to Eastern Idaho, we can try to visit with your legislators together. Maybe we can try to to speak with them, and then those from the surrounding area to see if we could just help get more input and try to educate them on these issues.
Yeah. I mean, I talked to all of the representatives in my districts and areas, and we actually have pretty good relationships that we've built. And I think I don't know that it's helping us down there or hurting us. I'm not in every meeting that they're in, obviously, but I definitely think talking to them and just being upfront with them. This is why we want the codes. It helps with this, it helps with that. The architects are in favor of it. These people are in favor of. I'm just giving examples, of course, but I think as you hit that at the grassroots level, I think when this gets in front of any of these, and the representative may not even be on the business committee or a committee that they're making decisions in, but at least it's educating them to where someone comes forward and they're like, "Oh, you want the new building code." They at least know what we're talking about, because a lot of these representatives, they get wrapped up in a lot of other things, and these other things are topics that have been discussed to them. So other organizations. So for example, if you're doing something with something outside the building code, there are people talking to these representatives locally, educating them on these issues, and they know more about that than they do our building codes. And that's honestly, that's kind of a shame on us for not reaching out and educating, and educating is in trying to get them to understand what we're doing, why we do it. I think that's going to be a bigger impact than anything else, because with the handful of 4 or 5 people down there that are making all the decisions, it's a pretty easy thing for them. They throw out 1 or 2 things like, I didn't know about this, or I wasn't involved, or I this or that. There's all sorts of different examples. You're not going to have a path forward on that if you have people in the rest of the House or Senate, either one, that don't know anything about it. They're only hearing it when they get down there. If they've already heard about it before they get down there, then they can at least say, I don't know if that's right. I know they had a negotiated rulemaking, or I know they had this or that. It's a little bit harder to just throw that out and not have any opposition. You know what I mean?
I'm just pausing here. I just wanted to make sure there wasn't any other comments. I apologize for the fishbowl discussion between myself and Brett there for a little bit. Hopefully, there wasn't anyone else that wanted to make comments. Definitely want to make sure we come at this from a collaborative standpoint. But I guess a couple of things I wanted to follow up on, unless just real quick, any other questions, anything else that anyone wanted to talk about with this draft that Ken has circulated and shared with us? I do want to make just one quick note on Ken. There could be some frustration, right? And I'm not saying there is, but there could be over the fact that he's pushing hard to get these through, even if it requires codification. But Ken's just doing what anyone should do if they're representing an organization. He's representing the interests of home builders. They're asking for him to try to get these through in any way possible. They tried the standard routes. It's not working. Now he's pivoted to a second option. So hopefully this doesn't create any animosity towards Ken. Ken has been nothing but upfront and honest, transparent, a straight shooter. You can work with him. You know what to expect. It's just this is the path he feels like he has to take forward, and that's why he's taking that path. So I just want to make sure that that's clear to everybody. Ken's a good guy. He's done his part. He went up there and he went to bat for Doppel and saying how much he appreciated all the input that they took and the chances they took around the state to hear directly from builders. He's a good guy and really do appreciate his willingness to work with us in a respectful and transparent manner. So that he's indicated that he's going to continue doing that with us. I will share any more updates I have as things continue to build on. But I know we didn't nail down this, but for next steps, does it make sense to meet in May? Do we want to wait to meet until after the building code board meeting that's set for June and then revisit this conversation? Is there anything in the interim that we would like to talk about, or anything else we should do? Is there anything from an IDL standpoint that would be good to research to have for the upcoming session that maybe we could talk to Damon about? Again, I'm just throwing out ideas and just wanting to see what the thought of everyone on this call is.
For me, it just seems like we should wait till the next building code board meeting, see what happens. But I don't know. You guys got other stuff too on your, all the training and stuff. So I don't know your others' thoughts.
I'm okay with that. I mean, that works for me, Jason. If we want to look at the month of June, to make sure that we can get the full input of what's decided by the building code board, I think it's a great chance for anyone that can be at that meeting in person to be able to talk to building code board members about how they're feeling, what they would like to see. Especially for building code members from around the state, that's a great time to get to meet them while they're here in Boise. So yeah, I'm okay with that, which, as a reminder, it's June 9th would be the building code board meeting. So are we saying then that we would be looking at like the 18th or 25th for a meeting? Is that right? Or we just want to do I personally can't make the 25th work, but we could do sometime the last week of June or the 18th of June. Anybody have a preference?
The 18th works for me.
Me too.
Okay. Well, we can plan then on 1 p.m. on June 18th. So that's about 9 days after the building code board meeting to follow up and further discuss this. Jeff, while I'm thinking about it, I know you come from the BOMA side. If there's anyone else that should be invited on the call, we'd appreciate it. And that's for everyone on this call. If there's anyone else we should bring into the conversation, that'd be great. The invitation's open to everybody. We want to make sure we have as many people participating so we can get some good decisions made, and kind of just figure out how we can move forward in a collaborative manner. So I'll send out that invite. Tess, Jerry, anything else that we need to add to the conversation?
Thanks,
No.
Lance. I think I'll just say, in the meantime, we can take a look at this bill and maybe try to help interpret it, right? Some of this language is a little hard to read, and kind of understanding what it actually would mean, and start from there. And if we want to take the route of working from within this bill, but maybe proposing some additional edits to it, we can help with that.
Thank you.
One thing we could do, Tess, and we could talk about this a little more offline, but it might be worth it. I would suggest a smaller group, maybe getting together with Ken to talk about this more, once we've kind of felt things out among us on the call as far as how we'd like to move forward on that. But that might be something worth doing so we can kind of provide more feedback. But we could talk about that at a later time.
Sounds good.
Okay. Well, everyone, thank you so much. Really do appreciate your willingness to be on the call. I know this wasn't a bunch of cheery news today, so I apologize. I wish I had cheery news to bring to you. It is great to see everyone. Really do appreciate the chance to work with you and your help in bringing me up to speed on things that I might not be fully aware of. But looking forward to the next time we'll chat in June. I hope each of you have a great May. You can find some time to pull away from your work and enjoy time with your family. But that's it for me, and I think that's it for everyone on the call. So we'll go ahead and adjourn the meeting and see you all again here soon.
Thanks,
Thank you,
everybody.
Lance.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Lance. Thanks, everyone.